Okay, while we were off the air and about to come back on, one of our crew asked, pwede ba talaga mangyari na yung bahagi na yan mapunta sa Malaysia? Sabi ko nga, inihahanda na nga 5 to 10 years. And if you need examples, no? Go back to the past 20 years. Yugoslavia, sinabi na namin, hinati-hati. Yung Syria, gustong partihin sa tatlo. Yung Libya, Eastern Libya, Western Libya, they keep on doing this imperialist powers. 400 years na nila ginagawa sa mundo yan. So we will lose the hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth na nandiyan sa Sulu Sea. Well, anyway, let's go on. You were describing that process na dinidisenyo na nila yung bangsa MILF na may prime minister and so on, and madali nang ipasok doon sa Federation of Malaysia when the time comes. Yun ang kailangan natin talaga isa-isip, at sana ito ay magpalagablab sa ating damdamin tungkol dito. You want to further add to that?
Yeah, before we went on the break, yung head nito, yung chief minister, is actually like a prime minister. Sa parliamentary system po, walang term limits ang prime minister. He will stay in power as long as there is no confidence vote. As long as there's no confidence...
The difference here nga, nung panahon ni Normiswari, appointed siya sa ARM, and the other ARM governors appointed. So, kailangan pa talaga mag-obeisance sa national government. Ito, mawawala na nga kasi he can outlast every president.
Diba? Kasi paano magkakaroon ng no confidence vote against him kung yung parliament ay composed ng mga MILF. At dito nga sa Transition Commission na sinasabi, 7 yung sa government at 8 sa MILF.
Importante yan.
So, walang representative dito ng mga lumads kang makikita sa Transition Commission.
Saka doon sa
original agreement.
Sa boto lang talo na 7 versus 8. Diba?
And then nakalagay dito po na babaguhin nila yung Constitution. Nakalagay dito na one of the functions of the Transition Commission is to work on proposals to amend the Philippine Constitution for the purpose of accommodating and entrenching in the Constitution the agreements of the parties whenever necessary. Whenever necessary. So, kahit kailan nila gusto.
As a lawyer and a constitutionalist, anong reaction mo dyan? Sila pang nagtuturo sa
alam mo,
people of the
Minto,
Philippines.
That is in effect an admission that whatever agreements the government have entered into now with the MILF have to be implemented by amending the Constitution.
In other words, today, it is unconstitutional already.
It is unconstitutional in black and white. For instance, power sharing. The powers of government is with the national government. The one who executes it is the president. There is no agency of government that can delegate its power, including the president, to the Bangsamoro, Bangsa MLF. There is none, because the fundamental rule in constitutional law and in statutory law is in Latin, delegata potestas non-delegare potest. Delegated power cannot be delegated.
Okay.
How can they delegate the power that was only delegated to them? That's why these people are hallucinating. I was telling some people yesterday, there's a lot of hallucination here.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised why they have hallucinations. You know why? That's why you're smiling.
But alam naman natin, ang ating mga mambabatas, ang totoong karakter ay mga mambubutas, di ba? Lalo-lalo na kung nasisilawan ng winawagayway yung pera sa harap nila. No? So, this is nothing new. They do not respect the Constitution nor the law. But only the people can ensure. I was saying earlier, puro dakdak tayo, anong mangyayari dyan? But at least Ferdy had a good reply. Are we able to win against them?
Yeah, it has been demonstrated time and again that when the people is united, whatever attempts against the people are thwarted. Like, for example, in the pork barrel, in the recent Meralco scam, Meralco was forced to backtrack.
Meralco, ERC, everybody was forced to backtrack. Binaba ang singil ng Meralco.
So we can fight against, in this book, this has been published by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. It is stated here on page 103 that as early as February 2008, the United States Institute of Peace, which many say is just a front organization
It is,
of the oil industry of the United States, suggested that a constitutional amendment might be required to protect a GRP-MILF agreement. So as early as February 2008, the USIP, the Americans, have already been advocating a charter change. So are they allowed to interfere in our internal affairs? And then in the agreement, it is stated here that the provisions of the Bangsamoro Basic Law shall be consistent with all agreements of the parties. So the hands of Congress have already been tied so that the law that will be produced by Congress shall be consistent with all the agreements of the parties. So do we still follow the Constitution in this land? So we're going to change the Constitution in order for the Constitution to conform with the agreement rather than the agreement conforming with the Constitution.
O no?
You know, I'd like to raise 2 points. Sabi mo kanina, mambubutas. Totoo may mambubutas, pero ang totoo dyan is manggagatas.
Kasi
PDAP,
ginagatasan nila talaga.
At ikalawa, we should go back to history. In the history of this country, the people who violated the Constitution without shame, shamelessly violated the Constitution were liberals. Quirino.
The Liberal Party.
Yeah, the Liberal Party. What did Quirino say? The Constitution is a mere scrap of paper. He was a leader of the Liberal Party. Who is the other leader of the Liberal Party? President of the Senate, Jose Avellino. What are we in power for? These statements of these old liberals in the olden days are reflected by Pinoy, no? President Pinoy, reflected by his statements that he can do anything because he's president. And as a matter of fact, threatening the people who oppose these agreements that the fate of Zamboanga will befall on you. No, wag masyadong yabangan yan. Masyadong mang mayabang.
So I'll go back to this book. Anong conclusion ni Cesar P. Pobre? Assertion of sovereignty. Unfortunately, often our Philippine armed forces just follow the diktats of the U.S. and their appointed puppet in Malacanang. Do you think they will see the light here?
No.
What do you hear?
Nangyari na po yan nung panahon ni Gloria Arroyo. Ang Secretary of National Defense ay si Gibo Chodoro, and then ang DILG Secretary ay si Ronnie Puno, tapos ang Chief of Staff ng Armed Forces ay si General Llano. Hindi nila sinunod yung MOA AD. At nung nanggulo itong MILF, wala pa yung BIFF noon eh. Sina Umbracato, under pa sila ng MILF. Nung nanggulo yung MILF, ay ginamit ng puwersa. At kahit na sinasabihan sila nila GMA at saka nila Esperon na huwag kalabanin at pabayaan lang, ay kumilos sila sapagkat pinoprotektahan nila yung citizens, sapagkat sinusunog yung mga bahay.
Yeah. Now, does this have to be submitted or will somebody take an initiative to bring this to the Supreme Court?
I think somebody will, no, in time. But I want to mention this about the armed forces of the Philippines. The armed forces of the Philippines, as a rule, as a matter of fact, every time there is a coup, ano bang sinasabi ng mga Amerikano dito?
So, yun ang
Pabor
tanong
ba?
nila.
Yun ang tanong. I should know because I've been lawyering for these people for a long period of time. So, they're always listening to what the Americans would say. I wish to remind the officers, especially those who always invoke honor from the Philippine Military Academy, that they should have an honorable conduct by studying the Constitution. You know, Section 3 of Article 2 of the Constitution has a specific exception to civilian authorities at all times superior over the military. The exception comes in the next statement. The armed forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people and the state. Where is the armed forces of the Philippines in this wanton violation of the Constitution? Where are they? They are not supposed to protect the government. They are supposed to protect the people and the state, meaning territory and sovereignty.
Okay. Well, let me go back. So we're just waiting for some party to take the initiative to question this against the Supreme Court, because obviously there are a lot of violations of the Constitution. So can the Supreme Court still strike it down as did the Corona Supreme Court?
Of course, it can. Because after all, Pinoy, that's my point of view,
Doesn't he have control of the Supreme Court?
does
With
not
Sen-
have, no, he may have control of the Supreme Court, but he does not have complete control of the Supreme Court. Because I think in many occasions in the past, the Supreme Court also listened, as what
But the Supreme
Ferdinand
Court has
mentioned,
somebody like
when the
Leonen there.
people moves.
The Supreme Court has somebody like Leonen. Leonen was part of the
But he
this
should be
panel.
inhibited. There is a clear provision of the rules of court that since he was a participant in making the agreement, he cannot possibly be a member of the Supreme Court to rule over the matters which he endorsed through the formulation of the agreement.
So
He should
maybe,
be
Bono, we
inhibited.
should consider if others are still not visible, maybe we should consider initiating a move in the Supreme Court against this Abangsa MILF agreement.
Alam mo, Minto, you and I have always been in the forefront in the struggle for the Constitution to prevail in this country. And we always go to the Supreme Court. But that's not a bad idea. No. We will seriously consider it in the next few days.
Okay, Ferdy, anything?
Well, there's talk about charter change, they're saying that it will be limited to economic provisions. But Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago herself issued a statement that it is impossible. There are so many Supreme Court decisions that say that once a constitutional amendment process is started, there is no one and nothing on earth that can stop the Congress from amending any and all parts of the Constitution that it wishes to amend.
At napakalinaw, there is motivation here in this peace agreement for them to bring this up, and it's already stated there that they will bring up amendments to the Constitution.
Plus, they will follow the procedure of enacting an ordinary bill into an ordinary law in amending the supreme law of the land. Therefore, there will be a BICAM. Alam naman natin sa BICAM, di ba, yung 12% VAT ni Recto, di ba? Merong no pass-on provision doon. Sa BICAM, mysteriously, nawala yung no pass-on provision. So pagdating sa BICAM, pwede nilang isingit itong mga political amendments na ito.
Well, the BICAM, of course, is basically unconstitutional because, it delegates to a smaller body the function of the bigger House, and the Senate. Anyway, Bono.
What the people should seriously consider, and the armed forces of the Philippines, is to amend the presidency and amend Congress, because both institutions have been presented to be useless in the past few years.
Useless for the people.
Useless for the people.
Useful
to them.
To them. To the
But-
vested interests, to the foreign powers.
Of course.
And
So we should not only amend the Constitution going to federal parliamentary, we should amend the presidency and the Congress. They
Well-
should be amended.
We amend them during election, pero with the hocus picos, it is the picos machine that will amend them.
Yeah, the same thing will happen with the so-called plebiscite. Kasi sabi nila, sasubmit naman to sa taong bayan for ratification Etong tsa-tsa na ito picos machine ang gagamitin nila sa pagbibilang. How can we be sure na mabibilang ng tama yung no? Baka mamaya sasabihin ng picos machines, panalo yung yes, kahit na ang totoo, panalo yung no.
Mabuti pa nung panahon ni Marcos, may bigas pa.
Yeah.
Magtaas ka lang kamay, kahit na hindi sang-ayon, pwede nilang ibilang sang-ayon, pero may bigas ka.
No, hindi lang ganon, Mentong. Mabuti sa panahon ni Marcos, ang one of the major opponents of Marcos
Was
was
you.
this representation. I was the youngest on the national level. I beat Marcos in my own province. I won in that election against the Marcos boys in Misamis Oriental. Not only that, Mentong, at least, the people should be taught to examine very well the provisions of the Constitution. Simple lang yan.
Well, we'd like to do that,
But look, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. Ang presidente, ahente lang yan. Pwedeng ma-dismiss
tama
yan.
yan, but it
Ang
seems
Kongreso, ganon rin.
it's turning out that all sovereignty resides in those who control the big media, ABS-CBN, GMA7, TV5, Inquirer, Philippine Star, and a great part of these are owned by Manny Pangilinan anymore, who is the co-chair with Negro Ponte ng US doon sa Philippine US Council. Ano? Yun ang nagko-control.
But Mintong, that is for the moment.
Mm.
For everything, there is a season.
Well, all I
There
can
is a season.
I can add to that, we are doing our part in informing the people. Ano, pinapaalam natin sa bayan yung buong katotohanan, lahat ng impormasyon na kailangan nila para maging malaya ang kanilang pag-aaral nitong mga pangyayaring ito. Ano?
With the hope and the prayer that somewhere along the way, as we discuss and expose these ideas to the people, there will emerge, galing sa taong bayan mismo, ang darating na leader para sa ating bansa at para sa kanila.
Ako, ang reaksyon ko dyan, dapat lahat maging leader. Ano? Lahat magsalita. Lahat makipagsabwatan sa kapwa para maibalik ang totoong
Yun ang maganda.
demokrasya.
Yun ang maganda. Ang problema, tayo lang dito nagsisimula ng
yung mga crew
pagsasalita.
natin, yung audience
Ito
natin,
yung crew
kasama
natin,
yan.
oh.
Oh.
Panay smiles.
Okay, Ferdy.
I'd like to point out here that there is this news item, Arroyo and allies to get seats in House committees. This is significant because hindi sila kasama do sa official minority. Therefore, hindi sila entitled to have a committee membership. Pero ang nag-nominate sa kanila, yung majority. So, ibig sabihin, kung sino yung nag-nominate sa'yo, you belong to that group. So, since majority ang nag-nominate sa kanila, technically, they are now part of the majority. Ngayon, nakapagtataka kung bakit, kung kailan pinag-uusapan yung Chacha, ay biglang-biglang napasama sa majority itong Arroyo and her allies. So, ang suspetsya ng marami, Arroyo and her allies will cooperate with the charter
Let's
change.
ask the veteran politician,
Sabi ko
what
na-
do you see?
Sabi ko na nung araw, sa elections pa 2010, sa 2010, may Aquino Royo. Ngayon nakikita naman natin ang Aquino Royo, nabubuhay naman.
So, pakitang tao lang yung pagkulong kay Gloria.
Of course, of course.
Well,
Pati
we're-
yung nasa liig.
Pati yun, pakitang tao lamang. Well, we're nearing the end of our discussion. So, let me give a minute or two to the economic changes that they want. Yung pagbubukas ng pagbebenta sa mga foreigners ng lupa. This is because nag-reach na ng sukdulan ang ating land prices, real estate prices. May bubble na. But they want to, ang daming land bank na ng Ayala, etc. Pag yan ay nabuksan, lalong tataas yan. Silang makikinabang, hindi yung ordinaryong taong bayan or yung middle class. No? Because the land will be beyond the reach and already. They will be squatters in their own country. So that's on the economic provision. And the others, of course, anything to add to that on the economic provisions? Yung ownership daw ng media, bubuksan for foreign majority. Sabi na, anyway, nandyan na ang CNN and so on. And that's the point. Nandito na ang CNN at iba pa, bakit ka pa magbubukas para sa dayuhan?
Kaya nga-
Well, they just want to control all information. Ano?
Reply to that. The end of Belmonte. Alam na natin si Belmonte. Siya ang number one architect nitong changes of the Constitution on the economic level. That will not work. It will never work.
Why?
And he will be challenged
Okay.
openly along the way. Tingnan natin.
Mukhang ikaw magcha-challenge. No?
At sabihin natin sa kanila, bakit hindi tayo magdebate doon sa mainstream media?
Hindi sila
Kontrolado niyo ang
ayaw
mainstream
nila
media.
magdebate doon.
Doon tayo magdebate. Dito sila, imbitahin sa
sabi
debate.
natin,
Hindi naman pupunta dito.
Hindi pupunta. Oh.
Tayo pupunta tayo dyan kung gusto nilang may debate tungkol nitong constitutional amendment.
Nagkamali nga sila, ang Channel 7, inimbita ako eh. Midway, tinigil ang programa eh. Dahil durog yung kanilang anyway, we have last few minutes. Ang tanong ko, again, balik tayo doon. Dakdak tayo ng dakdak, paliwanag ng paliwanag. Paano ba talaga mananalo ang taong bayan? Ferdy, sabi mo nga kanina, may mga panalo naman tayo. Pero yung PDAF, magulo yun eh. Kasi may interest din yung naghaharing uri na diinan yung mga politiko kasi gusto nila masira yan at makalimutan yung kasalanan nila. No? Yung medyo totoong panalo tayo sa laban sa Meralco, yung Disyembre, Enero na sobrang taas ng singil. Ano? Talagang nagalit ang taong bayan. Natakot sila. Paminsan-minsan natatakot sila. Ano? Pero dito, malaki ito. At kalaban dito, US, yung Chacha, yung MILF agreement. How can we win? When even our own soldiers always ask, ano bang sinasabi ng kano? Okay ba? Na magkunita na kami?
Alam mo, Mintong, my answer to that question is smile.
Tilio.
So that they will not be able to read what we are thinking
Okay.
and what we are planning to do, if at all we are planning anything to do. Kaya ang plan naman
Plano lang naman.
plano naman lang yan. Pero the reply there is a smile. One day,
Nawala yung smile mo eh.
one day, the people will just produce a surprise for them. Di ba? Sa EDSA 1, the people produce a surprise. EDSA 2, the people produce a surprise. There will be surprises beyond EDSA.
But for EDSA 1 and
many more.
EDSA 2.
No, beyond EDSA. Beyond EDSA, there will be surprises. We have nothing to do with the surprises. Only we'll listen.
That I will have to add that EDSA 1, EDSA 2, ang nasurpresa at natuwa ay yung Kano. Sila ang nanalo eh. Ferdy, ikaw.
Masasabi ko lang, wag nating tawaran yung kakayahan ng taong bayan at yung tapang ng Pilipino. At wag din nating i-discount yung tinatawag sa Constitution na divine providence. Merong Diyos eh. At ang sambayanan, kapag napaliwanagan mo, ay kikilos. Naniniwala ako sa mga Pilipino. Hindi pa nawawala ang kabayanihan ng mga Pilipino. At hindi pa laos ang pagiging Pilipino.
Okay.
Ang final word yan, and I want to quote the late speaker, Laurel, ang kailangan na leader ng bansa ngayon ay yung may utak sa bayag at may bayag sa utak. Brains in his balls and balls in his brains. Because a leader that does not have this combination does not deserve to govern this country.
Okay. Well, our theme was Chacha, the end of the Republic or the Republic's demise. So, yung pinaglaban at nagsakripisyo sila, got Andres Bonifacio, got Jose Rizal at iba pa, ay papayagan ba ng bayan na mamatay na lang yung pangarap nila, na kanilang binuwisan ng buhay. And the real challenge are to those who swore on the Constitution that they will defend the Constitution and the nation. The soldiers, the police, and so on, the government servants, and we, the citizens. Tayo dito, we've been fighting. I think the majority of Filipinos have not fought in the past because they get confused by the mainstream media. Pero pag nalinawan, palagi ko naman, magkakaisang lahat. So, final words.
Amendment to the national anthem.
Anong lalagay mo?
Sinasabi ko doon ni Ninoy Aquino, nang nag-usap kami sa United States, I do not agree with you when you say that the Filipinos are worth dying for. If we die, the rascals will govern. The Filipinos are worth fighting for, and if need be, killing for. Ang pumatay ng dahil sa iyo. Bakit mamatay tayo? Dahil sa Pilipinas. Ang pumatay dahil sa Pilipinas. Yun ang dapat na amendment na gagawin natin.
Huwag lang tayong maulahan nila. Ferdy.
Well, kahit po baguhin nila yung Constitution, meron po mga pinirmahan ng Pilipinas na mga international convention katulad sa natural resources na dapat sa taong bayan yan. At saka meron po tayong principle na sinasabing salus populi est suprema lex, the welfare of the people is the supreme law. Ngayon, kung magtatagumpay sila, napapalitan yung Constitution against the welfare of the people, magpre-prevail pa rin po yung time-honored principle of salus populi est suprema lex. Baliwala po yung Constitution na gagawin nila, baliwala yung batas na gagawin nila, if it goes against the welfare of the people. Because the welfare of the people is the supreme law.
Okay, now we're at the end. Unless may habol pa, I will end with the advice of Bono Adasa, smile. Para makapag-isip-isip yung mga kalaban. Okay, with that, we thank you, our guests, and of course our audience. And basta't nakikita yung buong katotohanan, walang ibang pupuntahan ng sambayanan kundi yung tamang landas at yung totoong laban.
God bless this country.
Okay?
God bless the Philippines.
Okay. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat and have a good weekend.